Hello everybody, Weston Means here with eXp Realty here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm here with your market update for the month of April 2023. I know we're getting towards the end of May already, but the California Association of Realtors releases the data for the previous month in the third week of every month. So we're gonna dive right into it. As always, I'm gonna go into the 6 counties that I specialize in. Those being Alameda County, Contra Costa County, Marin County, San Francisco County, San Mateo County, and Santa Clara County. We're going to deep dive into each one. We're going to look at median price, the change there from last year, as well as the month prior. Also, we're going to look at home sales, how they've gone up and down since last year and from the month before April. We're also going to look at unsold inventory. This is going to tell us how many months of inventory we have in the current market. A healthy level of inventory is usually, 4, 5, 6 months of inventory. Right now, in pretty much all of these counties, we're seeing inventory around 1 to 2 months. So it's indicating very low levels of inventory. And lastly, we'll be looking at the median time it takes for a listing to sell on the market, and then the change from the month prior and the change from the year before. So let's get right into it. In Alameda County, in April 2023, this year, the median price of a single family home was priced at $1.225 million. That's pretty high. That's up 11.4% from the month prior. So we're getting into the spring market. Buyers start to wake up. They start to come out and see more homes. And the problem this year is we've had very little for sale. So more buyers and pretty much the same amount of listings. There's more demand and they're competing against similar inventory. So the competition per listing went up. Year to year, it actually went down 14.3%. So prices are down from last year. And you'll see this pattern in pretty much all of these counties. Home sales were down 36.8% in Alameda County in April this year from last year. So home sales have gone down. I think it's mostly due to the fact that interest rates are higher than they were at the beginning of last year, which has caused less buyers to be in the market. Even though they have jumped up recently because of us entering the spring market, sales are still lower than they were last year. And here's an interesting number. So month to month, so from March to April, sales actually went up 52.2%. So this is another indication that the spring market brings more sales. There's more buyers, more people, more folks hop into the market, and more sales happen. For unsold inventory in Alameda County in April, we had 1.1 months of inventory. So that's very low. This is what I've been talking about for the last several weeks. There's just not very much for sale, and that's definitely true here in Alameda County. Month to month, that actually went down 45%. So there was even less inventory in April than there was in March. And again, that's because March, we're still kind of like coming out of the winter market. A lot of homes tend to stay on the market longer because there's less competition. There's less buyers in the market. In April, more buyers came out, and so the months of inventory left for sale came down. And year to year, actually, the inventory went down 21.4%. So inventory is actually lower this year than it was last year in April. Now, the median time on market that it took for a listing to sell in Alameda County this April was 13 days. And surprisingly, that was actually an increase of 8.3% from the month prior. So it was actually taking a little bit slightly longer for a listing to sell than it did in March, which is pretty surprising because I think in all of these other counties, you're gonna see a decrease. Year to year, that was an increase of 62.5%. So it took a considerable amount of time more to sell a listing this year than it did last year. So we are seeing it's easier for buyers right now than it was last year, definitely, before the rate jump. All right, now Contra Costa County. The median price in Contra Costa County this April was $852,500. Quite a bit more affordable than Alameda County. Month to month, that was increased by 12.2%. Again, this is because the spring market, but prices are down 11.7% from last year. So along the same lines as these other counties. Home sales decreased 42.7% in Contra Costa County this April. That's along the same lines as Alameda County. Alameda County decreased by 36.8%. Month to month, this was an increase in sales of 58.6% in Contra Costa County. Unsold inventory in Contra Costa County in April was 1.2 months. That's 0.1 months more than Alameda County, so they're pretty much the same. Month to month, that was a decrease of 52%, and year to year, there was no change. It's pretty much the same. So that's a little unusual, but since the pandemic began, we've just had very low levels of inventory. So from last year, it was the same kind of level of unsold inventory in Contra Costa County. The median time on market that it took for a listing to sell was 13 days. That's the same as Alameda County. That's down 27.8% from the month prior, and it's an increase of 85.7% from last year. It actually increased more than Alameda County from last year. So it's quite a bit easier to get into a home in Contra Costa County, even though you're still competing against a lot of times multiple offers and multiple buyers. Now, Marin County, this is typically one of the more sleepy counties. There are sales, but it's not quite as competitive as Alameda or Contra Costa counties. The price point is considerably higher too, so maybe that has something to do with it. Median price in Marin County this April was 1.6 million. Month to month, that's a 10.5% increase from the month prior. From last year, it's down 7%. So this is the lowest amount that prices have gone down in any of these counties from last year. The change in interest rates hasn't had as much of an effect on the Marin County real estate market than it has in any of these other counties that I specialize in. For home sales in Marin County this April, year to year, it's gone down 39.4%. From the month prior, it's gone up 31.6%. So this is the same pattern that we're seeing in other places, just kind of like a smaller change in the delta. It's not changing as much as these other counties, but there is a similar pattern. Now, the months of unsold inventory in Marin County was 2.3 months in April this year. That's actually not the highest, but the second highest in these 6 counties. San Francisco County is the highest. Month to month, that's down 4.2% from the month prior. Not a huge change there. In Contra Costa and Alameda counties, we saw over 45% of a decrease, and in Marin, only 4.2%, so that's pretty low. And year to year, the inventory has actually gone up in Marin County, which is really surprising. It's gone up 109.1%. Marin County, like I said, it's kind of weird. It doesn't really go along the same lines as the other counties a lot of times. It looks like more folks have decided to sell this year in April than they did last year. So a little surprising. Now, the median days on market that it took for a listing to sell in Marin County this April was 17 days. That's not as competitive as Contra Costa or Alameda counties, not as competitive as any of the other counties that I'm going to talk about. So this is the least competitive county that we're going to talk about today. And that 17 days is a 45.9% decrease from the month prior. You know, again, this is because of entering the spring market, which tends to be a little more competitive. However, that amount of time that it took for a listing to sell this April was up 83.3% from last year. So it is taking quite a bit more time for a listing to sell this year than it was last year. You know, that's true in all of these counties. Okay, now San Francisco County. So in San Francisco County, the median price of a listing this April was 1.7 million. That's 100,000 more than Marin County. That's up 16% from the month prior, and it's down 17.5% from last year. Home sales have gone down 37.9% from last year in San Francisco County, but they've increased 57.3% from the month prior. So this is the same pattern. You know, we've entered the spring market. Sales are still down from last year, but they're up from the month prior. Now, the months of unsold inventory in San Francisco was 2.4 months. That's the highest in any of these 6 counties that we're talking about today. Basically, what happened with San Francisco County is it's been incredibly inflated ever since the pandemic happened. When rates shot up in June last year, San Francisco County was actually one of the counties that was hit the hardest. Their prices came down very heavily. We just kind of saw that bubble pop when the interest rates went up. It was super inflated. people just decided they didn't want to compete super hard for listings in San Francisco anymore. And especially with a lot of workers being remote now, there's less of a demand for especially tech folks to live in San Francisco. So that also had an effect on the demand in San Francisco County. Now, that was a 29.4% decrease from the month prior and a 50% increase from last year. There's 50% more listings in San Francisco County than there were last April. Now, the median days it took for a listing to sell in San Francisco this April was 15 days. That's the second longest amount of time it took for a listing to sell in these 6 counties, Marin County being the first. So it really shows that, before the rates started going up, things were still incredibly competitive in San Francisco. A lot of buyers out there were excited about the low interest rates, but the minute that interest rates started going up, a lot more inventory started accumulating and folks just weren't competing as much for the listings there in San Francisco. So that's what we're seeing here. It's a 16.7% decrease from the month prior, but a 25% increase from last year. So actually the median time on market hasn't been as affected as Marin County, Contra Costa, or Alameda counties. It's kind of along the same lines as Santa Clara County, which we'll see soon. The days on market has been affected, but the level of competition is still somewhat similar to what it was before. It hasn't been as affected. However, I think more folks are trying to sell their homes, and it's becoming harder to sell homes in San Francisco or Santa Clara just because the price point is so high and a lot of folks aren't trying to buy at the prices they were when interest rates were a lot lower. All right, now let's move to San Mateo County. So San Mateo County is the most expensive county that we're going to talk about. The median price in San Mateo County this April was $1.86 million. That's down 10.6% from the month prior and down 18.4% from last year. So this is pretty much the only county where the median price has actually gone down from March this year. I'm guessing it's probably because there are a lot of very high price listings in San Mateo County, up in like Hillsborough and places like that. There's a lot of listings that are 5 million, 10 million, and things like that. So that puts the median price out of whack. So that kind of explains why it's gone down from the month prior. In all of these other counties, the prices have gone up from March, and it's because of the spring market. But that's not the case here because there's a lot of high price listings in San Mateo County. Now, the home sales have gone down 37.7% from last year, and they've increased by 45.5% from the month prior. That's the same pattern that we're seeing in the other counties. Months of unsold inventory, that was at 1.8 this April. That's a 25% decrease from the month prior and a 28.6% increase from last year. Same pattern there. The median time it took for a listing to sell on the market in San Mateo County this April was 11 days. And that's the second most competitive county that we're going to talk about, Santa Clara being the first at 9 days. But, that's telling me is listings are selling in less than 2 weeks. So things are moving pretty fast in San Mateo County. There's still a very strong level of demand and competition per listing. That 11 days was a decrease of 8.3% from the month prior. Not a huge difference there. However, it is up 57.1% from last year. So it is taking a considerable amount of time more for a listing to sell in San Mateo than it was last year when interest rates were a lot lower. Now, lastly, Santa Clara County, the median price in this county for this April was $1.7 million. Month to month, that was up 13.3%, and it was down 12.8% from last year. So we're seeing a very similar pattern with all of these counties, except for San Mateo County, because like I said, there's a lot of different price listings in San Mateo County, and that may throw things out of whack. Home sales were down 31.9% from last year in Santa Clara County this April. Month to month, they were up 97.1%. That's quite a bit. So sales have shot up from March to April this year because of the spring market. Months of unsold inventory in Santa Clara County was 1.4 this April. Very low. I mean, this is the third lowest in all of these counties. Alameda and Contra Costa County are winning there, but Santa Clara County, very, very low levels of inventory. That's down 51.7% from the month prior. Again, a 0% change from last year. The level of inventory has kind of been fairly steady. I think earlier this year they hit some all-time lows, but now they're kind of going back to levels that are similar to last year in a lot of these counties. Now, the median time it took for a listing to sell on the market in Santa Clara County this April was 9 days, and that's the most competitive market that we are talking about today. And so that was actually a 0% change from the month prior. It's been very competitive this year. It's a 28.6% increase from last year. So things in Santa Clara County, they're actually selling in a little over 1 week. That means that because of the very low levels of inventory and the demand may be higher there than some of these other counties, that's causing the competition per listing to be very high. A lot of the listings out there are getting multiple offers. That's true in a lot of these other counties. However, there may be a few that stay on the market a little longer. I'm starting to see that now in May. Some of the listings are staying on the market a little longer, but last month it was pretty much multiple offers, especially for the brand new listings that were nicely staged and, had nice photos and were repainted and everything like that. It was pretty rough competition, but now I'm starting to see it ease up a little bit. It's becoming a little easier. Listings are staying on the market longer. So I'm sure we'll see that when we analyze the data next month. For now, I hope this really helped you guys understand what's going on in the market. As always, pretty much every year as we enter the spring market, things begin to heat up. Competition per listing tends to go up. We usually do see inventory also increase, which is not necessarily the case this time around. And again, that's probably because a lot of the would-be sellers who would sell are choosing not to because they may have refinanced when rates were around 3%. And so that's causing a lot of would-be sellers to just not want to sell. They just want to stay. They want to keep their low interest rates, and they don't want to be forced to buy in a high interest rate environment. That's pretty much what's happening right now. We just have very low levels of inventory, but we still have a lot of buyers that want to find homes. It's kind of like being between a rock and a hard place a little bit. But anyway, as always, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I would love to answer any of your questions about the market, about the real estate process for buyers or sellers, and feel free to let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and I'll see you soon.